The vibrant nebulae of the Orion star system cast an ethereal glow across the command deck of the Vraxi reconnaissance vessel, Sentinel Prime. Captain Corral stood motionless before the panoramic view screen, his four-fingered hands clasped tightly behind his back, the blue luminescence from the control panels accentuating the delicate silver patterns that adorned his pale gray skin. The year 3275 AC after conquest marked the seventh cycle of his command over the Vraxi scout fleet, a position of prestige within their modest but fiercely independent civilization. Status report. Corral ordered his voice, carrying the characteristic melodic inflection of the upper echelon Vraxi military. Lieutenant Commander Celis, the signal analysis officer, looked up from her console. Her elaborately braided cranial tendrils, a mark of her analytical specialization, twitched slightly as she processed the incoming data. All systems optimal, Captain. The Border Patrol Squadron reports no anomalies along the Orion-Orthus corridor. She paused, her six-fingered hand hovering over a pulsing indicator. Though our long-range sensors have detected unusual gravitational fluctuations in Sector 87 Delta. Corral's interest peaked. The Vraxi civilization had survived for millennia on vigilance and caution. Small in stature and resources compared to other spacefaring races they had encountered, the Vraxi compensated with superior reconnaissance technology and meticulous attention to potential threats. "Magnify Sector 87 Delta," he commanded. The view screen shifted, focusing on what appeared to be empty space. Yet, as the enhancement algorithms worked, a faint distortion became visible, a barely perceptible corridor of bent light stretching across the darkness. "What am I looking at, Celis?" Corral inquired, his four eyes narrowing as he studied the phenomenon. "Unknown, Captain. The distortion exhibits properties consistent with a massive object displacing spacetime, but our sensors cannot identify any physical structure." Celis adjusted several parameters on her console. "The phenomenon extends beyond our sensor range estimated length, exceeding 12,000 kilometric units." Corral contemplated the information. The Vraxi Council had been increasingly concerned about encroachment from neighboring systems. Their position at the edge of the Aryan star cluster made them particularly vulnerable. "Assemble the reconnaissance squadron," he decided. "I want a direct visual confirmation." Within 30 minutes, a fleet of 12 sleek Vraxi scout ships departed from their hidden orbital base. The vessels, each barely larger than ancient Earth transport aircraft, were marvels of Vraxi engineering, nearly invisible to conventional scanners, capable of hyperspeed jumps, and equipped with the most advanced sensor arrays in their known space. Captain Corral commanded from the lead vessel, the Whisper of Dawn. Beside him stood Lieutenant Mira, his most daring pilot and trusted second. Her specialized optical implants, glowing faintly with a purple hue, marked her as a member of the elite stealth division. "Formation Delta, maintain communication blackout," Corral instructed as they approached the coordinates. "Passive sensors only." The squadron fanned out, moving in perfect synchronization through the void. As they drew closer to the phenomenon, Corral felt an unfamiliar sensation creeping up his spine, a primal instinct that had served his ancestors well during the evolutionary struggles on their homeworld. "Captain," Mira whispered unnecessarily, lowering her voice despite the privacy of the command deck. "Gravitational fluctuations increasing. Whatever is generating this disturbance, it's massive." The view screen automatically adjusted as they crossed the threshold of the light corridor, and what materialized before them caused a collective gasp across the command deck. Ships, enormous beyond comprehension. Vessels so colossal that Corral's mind initially refused to process their scale. A formation of 7 behemoths moved in perfect alignment, each one easily dwarfing the entire Vraxi defense fleet. The closest vessel alone appeared to stretch for kilometers, its hull a symphony of geometric patterns and pulsing energy signatures, unlike anything in Vraxi records. "All stop," Corral ordered, his voice barely above a whisper. "Enhance visual." The image sharpened, revealing intricate details of the nearest vessel. Its construction suggested both artistic vision and terrifying military precision. Massive weapon emplacements studded its hull like mountain ranges. Energy patterns flowed across its surface in mesmerizing rivers of light. "Origin?" Corral asked, unable to tear his gaze from the spectacle. Celis, her voice trembling slightly, reported unknown captain, no match in our databases. Size comparison. Celis hesitated before responding. The nearest vessel is approximately 900 times the mass of our entire squadron combined. A heavy silence fell over the command deck. The Vraxi military doctrine had always emphasized that against superior firepower, information, and stealth were their greatest weapons. But these vessels, these titans defied all strategic calculations. Attempt communication, Corral decided, after several tense moments. Standard diplomatic frequencies. Transmitting. Celis confirmed, sending the automated Vraxi, greeting across multiple channels. Minutes passed with no response. "No acknowledgement, Captain," Celis reported. "It's possible they haven't detected us, or—" She hesitated. "Or they consider us too insignificant to respond," Corral finished her thought. "There's another possibility," Lieutenant Mira offered. "Our scans indicate their hull composition includes trace elements of radio-absorbent materials. Our signals might not be penetrating their communication systems." Corral considered this. "Increased transmission power, full-spectrum broadcast." As Celis adjusted the communication array, a warning indicator flashed across her console. "Captain, energy spike detected from the lead vessel." Corral's military training took over. Evasive pattern Omega, prepare defensive. He stopped mid-command as the energy spike manifested as nothing more than a massive illumination sequence along the hull of the lead vessel. Patterns of light cascaded across its surface in what almost appeared to be a response to their communication attempt. "They're signaling us," Mira observed, "but not on any frequency we recognize." Visual communication, Corral realized. Primitive but effective across species barriers. Before they could analyze the light patterns further, the massive vessel began to adjust its heading, a nearly imperceptible change for something so enormous. But the Vraxi sensors detected the minute alteration immediately. "They're changing course," Celis reported, deviating approximately 0.003 degrees from their previous trajectory. "To avoid us," Mira suggested. "Or to acknowledge our presence," Corral countered. "They could have obliterated us without effort. Instead, they're making a course correction that will cost them significant energy." The implications weren't lost on anyone present. Whatever civilization had built these colossal ships possessed technology far beyond Vraxi capabilities, yet demonstrated restraint rather than aggression. Corral made a decision that would alter the course of Vraxi history. "Lieutenant Mira, I want you to take our stealth craft for closer observation. Maintain absolute invisibility protocols." Mira's eyes widened slightly, but she nodded. "Objective parameters, Captain. We need intelligence on their propulsion systems, weapons capabilities, and if possible, visual confirmation of the species operating these vessels." Corral met her gaze steadily. "But your primary directive is to return safely with whatever information you can gather. No unnecessary risks." Mira departed for the auxiliary hangar, while Corral maintained the squadron's position at a respectful distance from the Titan ships. The tension on the command deck was palpable as minutes stretched into hours, with no communication from Mira's stealth craft. Finally, Celis announced, "Incoming transmission heavily encrypted. It's Lieutenant Mira." "On screen," Corral ordered. Mira's face appeared illuminated by the soft glow of her stealth craft's minimal lighting. Her expression was one of barely contained awe. "Captain, I've managed to approach within 50 meters of the hull of the lead vessel," she reported. "The scale, it's indescribable. What we're seeing is only the outer shell of a structure that contains worlds." "Clarify," Corral demanded. "I've detected multiple enclosed ecosystems within the vessel, Captain. Not merely crew quarters, entire self-sustaining habitats. agricultural sections, atmospheric generators, water recycling systems on a planetary scale. She paused, adjusting her craft's position. And I've confirmed the presence of life forms. Bipedal, larger than Vraxi standard. Based on thermal signatures, I estimate their average height at approximately twice our own. The revelation sent murmurs across the command deck. A spacefaring species physically larger than the Vraxi wasn't unprecedented, but the combination of advanced technology and physical size advantage raised concerning strategic implications. I am attempting to locate a viewport or observation deck to gather visual data on the species, Mira continued. Negative, Corral countered immediately. You've gathered sufficient intelligence. Return to... Wait, Captain, Mira interrupted, her voice rising with excitement. I've located what appears to be a command center. Massive transparent section near what we've designated as the forward section. I can see them. Despite his order, Corral found himself leaning forward with interest. Describe them. Humanoid. 2 arms, 2 legs. Significantly larger than our records of standard humanoid proportions. They appear to be... Mira's voice trailed off. Lieutenant, Captain, they're looking directly at me. A cold sensation washed over Corral. Impossible, your stealth systems... They've detected me somehow. Mira's voice remained professional despite the clear alarm. Attempting evasive... The transmission suddenly filled with static. Lieutenant Mira, Corral called out. Celis, re-establish contact. I'm trying, Captain, but there's interference across all frequencies. Celis reported, her fingers dancing across the controls. Moments passed in tense silence before the communication system crackled back to life. Narrowly avoided capture. Mira's voice returned breathless. They deployed some kind of energy field. Nearly disabled my systems. I've retreated to minimum safe distance. Relief flooded through Corral. Return immediately, Lieutenant. That's an order. Complying, Captain. But you should know they weren't hostile. They could have destroyed my craft, but they merely attempted containment. Mira's voice carried a note of wonder. And, Captain, they're humans. The revelation struck the command deck like a physical blow. Humans, a species known only through ancient historical records, thought to have vanished from the galactic stage millennia ago, after a brief but dramatic emergence from their home system. As Mira's stealth craft docked with the whisper of dawn, Corral found himself re-evaluating their strategic position. If these were indeed humans, their historical reputation presented a complex picture capable of both profound creativity and terrifying destruction. Upon her return, Mira immediately transferred her sensor data to the main system. The command crew gathered around as the first visual images of the Titan ship's occupants appeared on screen. Unmistakably human. Celis confirmed, comparing the images to historical records. Though they appear to have evolved significantly since the last documented encounters. The beings on screen moved with a fluid grace that belied their size, their features similar to Vraxi in basic arrangement. But with striking differences, only 2 eyes varied skin pigmentation, and most notably, their imposing height and build. What's most interesting, Mira noted, bringing up energy scans, is their propulsion system. It appears to generate the light corridor. We detected some form of gravitational manipulation that literally folds space around the vessels. Corral studied the readings with growing concern. A civilization with this level of technology could have conquered our entire system without effort. Yet they merely acknowledged our presence and adjusted their course. Why? Before anyone could offer theories, Celis called out, Captain, the Titans are altering formation. The view screen showed the massive vessels shifting position, their movement slow, but deliberate, forming a circular arrangement with their weapon systems, now clearly visible, pointed outward, rather than toward the Vraxi squadron. Defensive posture, Corral observed. But against what? His question was answered by a sudden alert from the sensor array. Multiple incoming vessels, Celis reported, emerging from hyperspace at coordinates 117 Gamma. The view screen shifted to show a new fleet materializing from the darkness ships with sharp predatory lines, their hulls gleaming with a metallic surface that seemed to absorb rather than reflect light. Unlike the Titans, these vessels moved with aggressive precision, immediately forming attack patterns. "Species identification," Corral demanded. "Unknown captain, no match in our records." The newcomers accelerated toward the human Titans, their intent unmistakable. Before Corral could issue orders, the space between the fleets erupted with weapons fire, energy beams of blinding intensity lanced from the smaller attacking vessels toward the Titans. What happened next defied expectation. The energy weapons, powerful enough to vaporize a Vraxi capital ship, splashed harmlessly against invisible barriers surrounding the human vessels. The Titans responded not with similar energy weapons, but with pinpoint gravitational distortions that simply crushed the attacking ships, collapsing them like paper sculptures in a vacuum. The battle, if it could be called, that ended almost as quickly as it began. The few remaining attacker vessels retreated into hyperspace, leaving only debris where their companions had been. "Did you record that?" Corral asked quietly. Every moment Captain Celis confirmed, her voice hushed with awe. "Their defensive capabilities alone are beyond anything in our records." A new alert sounded from the communication array. Captain Celis reported with surprise, "We're receiving a transmission. It's directed specifically at us." Origin: the lead Titan vessel. Corral straightened his posture. "On screen." The view screen shifted to show an interior chamber of breathtaking scale, a command center larger than the Vraxi Council chambers, staffed by dozens of humans in uniform attire. At the center stood a particularly imposing figure, female by Vraxi recognition standards, her dark skin contrasting with the silver of her elaborately decorated uniform. "Greetings, Vraxi Reconnaissance Squadron." The human spoke, her words automatically translated by the ship's systems. "I am General Haniel, commanding officer of the Terran Alliance vessel, Prometheus. We acknowledge your observation of our fleet and wish to establish diplomatic communication." Corral hesitated only briefly before responding. "This is Captain Corral of the Vraxi Defense Force. We accept your communication." General Haniel's expression remained formally neutral, but there was a hint of what might have been amusement in her eyes. "Captain, I apologize for the necessary defense measures taken against your stealth craft. Rest assured, your officer was never in danger." Corral glanced at Mira, whose expression suggested otherwise, but he maintained diplomatic composure. "We understand the need for security precautions, General." "Indeed," Haniel nodded. "Security is precisely why I've initiated this contact. The vessels you witnessed us neutralizing belong to the Voidborn and Expansionist collective that has been systematically eliminating smaller civilizations throughout this sector." The revelation sent a ripple of tension through the command deck. The Vraxi had detected unusual silence from several neighboring systems in recent cycles, but had attributed it to natural phenomena or communication difficulties. "We've been tracking the Voidborn advance for some time," Haniel continued. "Our intelligence suggests your Arion system is among their priority targets due to your advanced sensor technology and strategic position." Corral processed this information, weighing the possibility of deception against the evidence they had witnessed. "If what you say is true, why would beings of your obvious technological superiority concern yourselves with our fate?" Haniel's expression softened marginally. "The Terran Alliance was formed precisely to prevent the extinction of unique civilizations like yours, Captain. We believe in galactic diversity and cooperative advancement." "You suggest an alliance?" Corral asked directly. "I suggest a conversation," Haniel replied carefully. "One best conducted in person if you're willing. We extend an invitation for you and your senior officers to come aboard the Prometheus." The proposal hung in the air like a gravitational anomaly, distorting the normal flow of protocol and procedure. Bringing a Vraxi delegation onto an alien vessel violated every security regulation in their military doctrine. Yet Corral found himself considering the unprecedented invitation. Their brief encounter with the Voidborn vessels, and the effortless way the Titans had dispatched them, suggested that if the humans harbored hostile intentions, the Vraxi would have already been destroyed. "Captain," Mira said quietly, "the Council would expect consultation before such a significant diplomatic step." Corral knew she was right, but he also recognized the rare opportunity before them. If the Voidborn threat was real, the Vraxi civilization might depend on the information these humans possessed. "We accept your invitation, General Hanael," Corral decided. "A delegation of 3 officers will prepare for transport." "Excellent," Hanael responded. "We'll transmit docking coordinates for your shuttle. Our environmental systems have already been adjusted to Vraxi atmospheric requirements." The transmission ended, leaving the command deck in stunned silence. "Captain," Celis ventured cautiously, "Judge Slynn and the Defense Council will consider this a violation of First Contact protocols." "Noted," Corral acknowledged. "And when we return with intelligence about a threat that could annihilate our entire civilization, perhaps they'll be more concerned with survival than protocol." He turned to address his officers. "Lieutenant Mira and Commander Celis will accompany me. Tactical Officer Vreen will assume command in our absence." Preparations were made with efficient precision, though tension permeated every action. The Vraxi shuttle, designed for diplomatic missions, but never before used to approach an alien vessel of this magnitude, departed from the whisper of dawn, with Captain Corral, Lieutenant Mira, and Commander Celis aboard. As they approached the colossal Prometheus, the scale became even more apparent. What had appeared from a distance as minor surface details revealed themselves as structures the size of Vraxi cities. Illuminated docking bays large enough to accommodate entire Vraxi battle fleets lined sections of the hull. "Our entire defense force could fit in a maintenance bay," Mira observed quietly as they approached their designated docking area, a smaller platform that had obviously been selected specifically for their modest vessel. The docking procedure completed with surprising ease, the human systems perfectly compatible with Vraxi technology, despite no prior contact. As the airlock cycled, Corral addressed his officers one final time. "Remember, we represent not just our military, but our entire species. Observe everything, reveal nothing of strategic value, and maintain diplomatic courtesy regardless of circumstance." The inner door opened to reveal a reception area, scaled for Vraxi, comfort a deliberate accommodation that both impressed and unsettled Corral. How much did these humans already know about his people? A delegation of 3 humans awaited them, led by General Hanael herself. In person, the humans were even more imposing than they had appeared on screen. Hanael stood nearly twice Corral's height, her commanding presence accentuated by the precisely tailored uniform, adorned with symbols of rank and achievement. "Captain Corral," she greeted, inclining her head in what appeared to be a gesture of respect. "Welcome aboard the Prometheus. May I introduce Science Director Alara and Security Chief Marcus." Corral performed the traditional Vraxi, greeting a precise gesture with all 4 hands that signified peaceful intent. "General Hanael, this is Lieutenant Mira, our stealth specialist, and Commander Celis, our communications and intelligence officer." Pleasantries complete, Hanael gestured toward a transport platform. "If you'll accompany us, we've prepared a briefing on the Voidborn threat and our proposed alliance structure." The journey through the Titan ship became an education in human civilization. They traveled in a transparent elevator that moved both horizontally and vertically through the vessel's interior, providing glimpses of truly staggering spaces. Artificial ecological preserves housing Earth species manufacturing sections, where machines the size of Vraxi cruisers assembled components, and residential zones where thousands of humans went about their daily routines. The Prometheus serves as both warship and colony vessel, Hanael explained as they observed. "We carry a civilian population of approximately 150,000, supporting a military complement of 20,000. The numbers stunned the Vraxi delegation. Their entire species numbered less than 10 million with their largest vessels, carrying crews of perhaps 200. "You mentioned the Terran Alliance," Corral said carefully. "Historical records suggested humans were confined to a single planetary system." A shadow passed over Haniel's features. "That was once true. Earth remains our spiritual homeworld, but it was rendered uninhabitable during the resource wars of the 25th century. The surviving human factions eventually formed the Alliance and developed the Titan-class vessels as generation ships, self-sustaining habitats that would ensure our species' survival." "And now you patrol space, protecting other civilizations?" Mira asked, skepticism evident in her tone. "We protect diversity, Security Chief," Marcus responded, speaking for the first time. His voice carried a deeper resonance than Haniel's. "The Voidborn believe in absolute homogeneity, technological and biological. They don't merely conquer, they absorb and erase uniqueness." The elevator stopped at what appeared to be a command level, and the group proceeded to a briefing room proportioned for comfortable interaction between the species. A holographic display dominated the center, currently showing the Arion system and surrounding space. The Voidborn initially appeared approximately 30 Earth Standard Years ago. Science Director Alara explained manipulating the display to show a progression of territorial expansion across multiple star systems. They employ a consistent strategy: isolate a target civilization, sever their communication with neighbors, then systematically harvest their technology and biological distinctiveness. The display shifted to show recorded encounters between Alliance forces and Voidborn vessels, including the brief skirmish the Vraxi had witnessed. "Their technology emphasizes adaptation over innovation," Alara continued. "They incorporate elements from conquered civilizations, which makes each encounter progressively more challenging." "What exactly are you proposing?" Corral asked directly. "The Vraxi are a peaceful civilization with limited military resources. Against a threat of this magnitude, we don't expect you to match our firepower, Captain," Hanel interjected. "What we need is your sensor technology and your intimate knowledge of this sector. The Voidborn employ cloaking techniques that challenge even our detection systems. Your reconnaissance expertise could provide the edge we need." Corral exchanged glances with his officers, noting Celis's subtle nod of confirmation. The humans were being truthful about the Voidborn capabilities. "And in exchange," Corral pressed. "Protection," Haniel stated simply. "Alliance membership includes defensive pacts, technological exchange programs, and guaranteed sovereignty. Your civilization would retain complete autonomy while gaining access to Alliance resources and security." The offer was extraordinary, perhaps too much so. "This is a significant decision that requires consultation with our governing council," Corral responded diplomatically. "We would need to present comprehensive information about both the threat and the proposed alliance." "Of course," Hanel agreed readily. "We've prepared a data package for your council's review." She nodded to Marcus, who produced a small device and offered it to Celis. "This contains details of the Voidborn Threat Alliance structure and the specific terms we propose for Vraxi membership." Celis accepted the device cautiously. "Our systems may not be compatible with—" "The data is formatted to your specifications," Alara assured her with a smile. "We've analyzed your technology sufficiently to ensure compatibility." The implication that human intelligence had thoroughly examined Vraxi systems without detection sent a chill through Corral. These beings possessed capabilities far beyond what they had demonstrated overtly. "Before you depart," Haniel said, seemingly oblivious to their discomfort, "we'd like to offer a tour of the Prometheus. Understanding our civilization may help contextual your decision." What followed was a carefully choreographed journey through selected sections of the Titan vessel. The Vraxi delegation observed agricultural complexes that produced enough food to sustain millions of medical facilities, with regeneration technology far beyond their understanding, and educational centers where human children, startlingly large by Vraxi standards, learned sciences that blurred the line between physics and philosophy. Throughout the tour, Corral noted the meticulous attention to detail in the presentation. They were being shown impressive capabilities, but nothing that revealed critical vulnerabilities or military secrets. It was precisely what he would have arranged had the situation been reversed. The final stop brought them to an observation deck offering a panoramic view of space and the 6 other Titan ships maintaining formation around the Prometheus. The Alliance fleet in this sector represents approximately 10% of our total forces, Hanael explained, gazing out at her companion vessels. Sufficient to counter the current Voidborn presence, but we anticipate escalation if they realize we're actively recruiting allies. Which means time is of the essence, Corral concluded. Hanael turned to face him, her expression grave. Indeed, Captain. Our intelligence suggests the Voidborn will move against the Arion system within 60 days. Without Alliance protection, the outcome is statistically unfavorable for your people. The return journey to the docking bay proceeded in thoughtful silence, each member of the Vraxi delegation processing what they had witnessed. As they prepared to board their shuttle, Hanael addressed Corral one final time. Captain, I understand the position we've placed you in. Introducing an existential threat and offering protection in the same conversation appears suspicious at best, coercive at worst. Her voice lowered slightly. But I give you my word as an officer of the Alliance, everything we've shared is accurate. The Voidborn are coming and your civilization's unique contributions could be lost forever without action. Corral considered her words carefully before responding. In my culture, General, we have a concept called Vraxith, the moment of necessary truth between potential allies. I believe we have reached that moment. He straightened to his full height, still barely reaching Hanael's shoulder. I will present your proposal to my council, with my personal recommendation for acceptance. Something like relief flickered across Hanael's features. Thank you, Captain. We await your council's decision. Safe journey. The shuttle departed the Prometheus. Without incident, returning to the Vraxi squadron that had maintained position at a respectful distance throughout the diplomatic exchange. As they approached, Corral noted that the human Titans had resumed their original formation, continuing their journey along the light corridor, as if the momentous first contact had been merely a brief diversion. Upon returning to the Whisper of Dawn, Corral immediately ordered a secure transmission to the Vraxi Defense Council. The response was swift and predictable. An emergency session was convened with the squadron ordered to return to the Arion system immediately. 3 days later, Captain Corral stood before the assembled council in the underground chamber that served as the Vraxi government's secure meeting facility. The 9 council members representing military, scientific, economic, and cultural divisions of their society regarded him with expressions ranging from curiosity to outright hostility. Judge Slynn, the senior military representative, spoke first. Captain Corral, you have violated approximately 17 protocols regarding first contact with unknown species. Your actions placed yourself, your officers, and potentially our entire civilization at risk. Her voice carried the distinctive metallic undertone of the judicial caste. Before we address the substance of this alliance proposal, explain why you should not be immediately relieved of command. Corral had anticipated this opening gambit. Slynn had opposed his appointment to fleet command, considering his family lineage insufficiently prestigious for such responsibility. With respect, Judge Slynn, I exercise command discretion under Article 12 of the Defense Charter, which authorizes extraordinary measures when facing potential extinction-level threats. Corral responded evenly. The Voidborn presence constitutes precisely such a threat, as the evidence package will demonstrate. Science Counselor Trevin intervened before Slynn could counter. We've reviewed the human data regarding these Voidborn. Their technological capabilities are indeed concerning, but we have only the humans' word that they target specifically the Arion system. We have more than their word, Counselor. Corral gestured to Commander Celis, who activated a holographic display in the center of the chamber. This is sensor data from our squadron, not human intelligence. The display showed gravitational distortions at the edges of the Ariane system, subtle anomalies that would typically be dismissed as natural phenomena. These distortions match the signature of void-borne scout vessels, as documented in the human records, Corral explained. They've been conducting reconnaissance of our system for at least 3 cycles. We simply lacked the reference data to identify them until now. A murmur passed through the council. Economic Director Vielle leaned forward, her elaborate ceremonial headdress catching the light. Assuming this threat is genuine, Captain, what precisely do these humans want from us? No spacefaring civilization offers protection without expecting significant compensation. They want our sensor technology and expertise, Corral answered honestly. The Vraxi stealth detection systems apparently surpass even human capabilities in certain applications. They believe our reconnaissance specialists could help track void-borne movements more effectively. So they admit their technological superiority has limitations, Judge Slane observed with evident satisfaction. Perhaps these titans aren't as invincible as they appear. They never claimed invincibility, Judge Lieutenant Mira interjected, stepping forward despite protocol. In fact, they were remarkably transparent about their strategic challenges. The Voidborn adapt quickly to defensive measures. The humans need diversity of approach, which is why they seek allies rather than simple conquests. Slyn fixed Mira with a cold stare. Lieutenant, you haven't been recognized by this council. My apologies, Mira responded, without sincere contrition. But having witnessed both human and voidborn technology firsthand, I felt compelled to correct misperceptions that might influence our survival. Cultural Minister Thalen, who had remained silent until now, raised a hand to calm the tension. Perhaps we should focus on the central question. Do we believe this alliance offers genuine protection, or merely delayed subjugation under human authority, rather than void-born assimilation? The question cut to the heart of the matter. Corral took a measured breath before responding. Minister, I cannot offer absolute certainty about human intentions. What I can tell you is that during our entire encounter, they demonstrated respect for our autonomy and culture. They adjusted their environment for our comfort, communicated on our terms, and most tellingly, they allowed us to leave their vessel with valuable intelligence, despite having no guarantee we would accept their proposal. That means nothing, Slyn countered. If their fleet is as powerful as you suggest, they could simply take what they want from us, regardless of our decision. Precisely my point, Judge, Corral responded. They could have, but they didn't. The Voidborn, according to both human intelligence and our own observations, offer no such choice. They simply take and destroy. The debate continued for hours, with each council member raising objections, seeking clarifications, and proposing alterations to the alliance terms. Throughout the proceedings, Corral maintained his position. Alliance with the humans represented the only viable path for Vraxi survival. As the session neared its conclusion, Judge Slyn made a final desperate argument. These humans with their Titan ships could be lying about everything. The Voidborn might be victims defending themselves. We have only their word and circumstantial evidence. We have more than that, Commander Celis responded quietly. During the lengthy debate, she had been analyzing additional data from their encounter. With the Council's permission, at a nod from Minister Thalen, Celis activated a new holographic display, a real-time sensor reading from the outer Arian system. This transmission is coming from our perimeter beacons, she explained. The pattern matches Voidborn signatures from the human database with 98.3% correlation. They've moved from reconnaissance to staging positions. The council chamber fell silent as the implications became clear. How long? Economic Director Vale asked finally. At current progression, they'll be in strike position within 15 days, Celis answered, significantly ahead of human projections. Minister Thalen rose from her seat, her ceremonial robes flowing around her slender form. I believe we've heard sufficient evidence. The Council will vote on the proposed alliance. The voting process took mere minutes, a stark contrast to the hours of debate that preceded it. When complete, Minister Thalen announced the result. By a vote of 7 in favor, 2 opposed, the Council authorizes Captain Corral to negotiate and execute alliance terms with the Human-Terran Alliance subject to the modifications detailed in our session records. Relief washed over Corral, though he maintained his professional composure. Thank you, ministers and directors. I will depart immediately to re-establish contact with the human fleet. One moment, Captain, Judge Slynn interrupted, her tone icy. While the Council has approved this alliance, I wish the record to show my continuing objection. We are placing the fate of our entire civilization in the hands of giants, who by your own admission possess technology we can barely comprehend. Corral met her gaze steadily. Your objection is noted, Judge. However, I believe history will show that today we chose survival through cooperation rather than extinction through isolation. Within hours, the Vraxi Defense Fleet, every combat-capable vessel they could mobilize, assembled in orbit around their homeworld. 300 ships from tiny reconnaissance craft to their largest battlecruisers prepared for the unprecedented journey to meet the human titans. Captain Corral, now designated as Alliance Liaison by Council decree, stood on the command deck of the flagship Eternal Vigilance. The weight of his civilization's future rested on his shoulders with an almost physical presence. Course plotted to the human fleet's last known coordinates, Navigation Officer Terrell reported. Estimated arrival in 3 standard cycles. Proceed. Corral ordered, watching as the stars blurred into streaks of light around them. The journey passed in tense preparation. Military units trained on the limited information they had about voidborne tactics. Scientific teams analyzed the human data package for technological insights. Diplomatic specialists crafted formal alliance terms based on Council parameters. As they approached the rendezvous coordinates, tension peaked. Would the humans still be there? Had they already engaged the Voidborn? Had the entire scenario been an elaborate deception? Dropping out of hyperspace in 3, 2, 1. Navigation Officer Terrell counted down. Reality reasserted itself around the Vraxi fleet as they emerged into normal space. For a moment, the view screen showed only stars and distant nebulae. Scan for the human vessels. Corral ordered, a hint of urgency creeping into his voice. No need, Captain, Lieutenant Mira responded, pointing toward the forward viewport. Look. The space before them suddenly warped as a massive shape emerged from what appeared to be a fold in reality itself. The Prometheus materialized its colossal form, dwarfing the entire Vraxi fleet. Around it, 6 more Titan vessels emerged in perfect formation, creating a protective perimeter around the smaller allies. Incoming transmission, Commander Celis announced. General Haniel is hailing us. On screen, Corral ordered. General Haniel's imposing figure appeared, her expression a mixture of satisfaction and grim determination. Captain Corral, I see the Vraxi Council has reached a decision. We have General Corral confirmed. The Vraxi civilization formally accepts your offer of alliance against the Voidborn threat, with certain modifications to the terms which we're prepared to discuss. Excellent, Haniel nodded. Though I'm afraid discussions will need to proceed quickly. Our scouts have detected Voidborn formations converging on your home system more rapidly than projected. It seems they've accelerated their timeline. We've detected the same, Corral acknowledged. How soon can your fleet reach defensive positions? We're already en route, Haniel responded with a hint of a smile. This communication is simply a courtesy to prevent misunderstandings when we arrive in your system approximately 6 hours after your own fleet returns. The implication that the Titan ships could outpace even the Vraxi vessel's best hyperspace capabilities was both reassuring and humbling. We'll prepare our defense forces to coordinate with your arrival, Corral assured her. And General, thank you. Whatever happens next, you've given us a fighting chance. That's what alliances are for Captain, Haniel replied. Though I suspect before this conflict ends, it will be the Vraxi giving humans a critical advantage. Your people's perspective and technology may provide insights our larger civilization has overlooked. As the transmission ended, Corral turned to address his command crew. Set course for home, maximum speed, and begin transmitting the Alliance protocols to all defense units. The Vraxi fleet reoriented and disappeared into hyperspace, racing back to their homeworld with news of powerful allies and the coming storm. Behind them, the 7 human titans shifted into their light corridor configuration, the space around them bending as they accelerated to velocities that defied conventional physics. Standing at the viewport, Captain Corral watched the hyperspatial distortions that marked their passage. For the first time since encountering the colossal ships, he felt something beyond awe or strategic calculation hope. The Vraxi might be small in stature and numbers compared to these human giants, but in alliance they would contribute their unique strengths to a greater whole. The coming conflict would test both civilizations, but together they might preserve the diversity that made each worthy of survival. And perhaps in time, the Vraxi would build their own titans, joining the humans among the stars as equals rather than protected wards. As the flagship accelerated toward home, Corral permitted himself a small smile. Judge Slynn had been right about one thing: they were indeed placing their fate in the hands of beings they barely understood. But sometimes, survival required trust beyond absolute certainty. The humans, for all their overwhelming power, had chosen to extend a hand rather than a fist. Now it was up to the Vraxi to prove themselves worthy of that choice.